I know that there was a tragedy that occurred not too long ago in the state of Tennessee, city of Nashville to be exact. A shooter went in and killed a few kids and then turned right back around and killed a few staff members. This is obviously tragic, but I do think that we need to use our better judgment, and I do think we need to actually keep our heads in this and not do anything completely stupid. This right here, my friends, was a GOP that I gave praise to last week. I have to kind of check them now because obviously they're about to do something very stupid. Now, guys, in this video right here, I'm going to be talking about what's going on here with this red flag law initiative that they're putting forward on both sides of the aisle. I'm also going to be talking about why it is that bipartisanship is not always good. I'm also going to be giving you guys my personal grievances with red flag laws, and I'm even going to be providing some updates to go along with some suggestions that should be considered in the future when it comes to countering these type of mass shooters. So make sure you guys stick around for the full video.
Tennessee Governor Bill Lee introduced today the second phase of his plan to keep Tennessee children safe. But as News Channel 5's Chris Davis has learned, getting his proposal passed may become quite the political fight.
We should set aside politics and pride and accomplish something that the people of Tennessee want us to get accomplished.
Setting politics aside may be a tall order for Governor Bill Lee, who, in addition to signing an executive order expanding background checks, is also asking for new legislation, establishing a mental health protection order, also known as a red flag law.
Let's talk about the situation first. Now, obviously, when a tragedy occurs, when a shooting occurs, and the person who actually did the shooting is somebody who identifies with a certain community, which, as I've said on multiple occasions, these shootings occur as a result of numerous factors. It's not the gun that did it. I have to tell people all the time that obviously the guns don't shoot themselves. It's obviously got somebody behind that gun. Obviously, there's some mental issues going on. Obviously, there's some emotional issues going on. I've talked about this on multiple occasions, why it is that a lot of these people on the left are really just unhappy. By left, I mean the social justice warriors. I understand that there are Democrats out there who don't think this way, and they just have a different upbringing or a different worldview that kind of gave them their voting pattern or the way they feel. But the left, this is a much different story. The social justice warriors, a much different topic. However, even though we know that the left and mental illness are somewhat synonymous with one another, and obviously when you look at the medications list of these people, the emotional disorders, you'll obviously see that there's a bit of a trend. Now, the thing is this right here. Red flag laws are a horrible idea, and you people shouldn't even be considering it. I have no idea why in the world there is GOP lawmakers in that state which claim to be extremely based that are actually doing this. Now, let me go ahead and give you guys another example of what I mean. Right now in the state of Michigan, they just got through passing a red flag law provision. Now, my assessment on that situation is that the people of Michigan, you get what you vote for. You voted almost straight Democrat in the last midterm cycle, and you got yourself a bunch of, let's just say, totalitarians are in charge, who are now going to look for any and every reason to harass you now going forward. Don't worry, we'll get to that here in this video a little bit later on. I would warn the Tennessee GOP not to go down this path. You see, part of the problem that conservatives are having is that they're not exactly conserving anything. And I need to go ahead and say this right here before we get any further. Anytime somebody brings up bipartisanship, I automatically cringe, and here's the reason why. You see, when somebody talks about bipartisanship and working together, it sounds good on the surface, but then you look at the pattern. Not since the mid-90s. You see, in the mid-90s, you had a president and you had a Republican Congress that got together to get tax cuts done, stuff like that. That was obviously good. However, when Bush got in office, these people unanimously voted for the Patriot Act. The same exact way they're voting for the Restrict Act. Anytime these people get together to do something on the level of, on the lines of bipartisanship, and you kind of heard it right there with that Democrat House minority leader, who basically said, I kind of tuned the governor out, or I kind of tuned the House Speaker every time he talks. But obviously, I'm going to listen on this one right here. That should kind of tell you what the intentions of these people really and truly are, who they are, what their actual end game is. Their end game is control. Red flag laws are a horrible idea, as I'll detail here soon. But the thing that you have to understand is this right here. When they get together on the lines of bipartisanship, they don't do it to help you. They do it to bend you over and stick something up your glory hole without the common courtesy of a reach around or even any lubricant.
I believe that this will protect victims that it'll hold dangerous people accountable and away from firearms, and that it'll preserve constitutional rights at the same time.
The bill would allow family members, law enforcement, and physicians to petition a judge to remove weapons for a period of time if the gun owner posed a threat to themselves or others.
There might be some disagreement here, but that's something that I would support.
2 weeks ago, Lieutenant Governor Randy McNally told News Channel 5 it's a proposal he could support. His counterpart in the House, not so much.
But doing one without the other doesn't work. But you also have to give people due process. You can't just simply take away their guns simply because someone says it is or is not.
I usually don't listen to much what he says. There's usually so little substance, it's not worth my time.
Democratic House Caucus Chairman John Ray Clemens is admittedly no fan of the governor. But in this case, he does support getting firearms out of the hands of dangerous people.
It's, unfortunate that Tennessee doesn't have one, and I think we should pass an extreme risk protection order law.
And while Clemens wishes the governor would restrict gun access even further,
look, I represent the super minority party in the Tennessee House, so I've got to have my Republican colleagues, or at least enough of them, to pass anything.
But finding enough votes to pass this protection order could be the toughest fight of Governor Bill Lee's tenure, placing politics front and center. At the Capitol, Chris Davis, News Channel 5.
Thanks, Chris. Speaker Cameron Sexton and Lieutenant Governor Randy McNally both declined on-camera interviews with News Channel 5 today, but sent us lengthy statements about passing protection orders.
So, yes, this right here is an absolutely stupid move by the Tennessee GOP and Governor Bill Lee. With that there being said, let's talk about red flag laws. Now, guys, let me go ahead and say this, okay? There are ways of preventing these types of shootings from happening without some form of red flag law. Red flag laws are dangerous for multiple reasons. Now, don't worry. There are two other YouTube commentators who actually did a take on this earlier. I will be talking a little bit about this and showing you guys some of the things that they said. The two commentators that I'm bringing up are Count Dacula, who said something that, quite frankly, was very eye-opening. We'll be commenting on that soon. And Heavy Duty Country, who also brought this little issue up as well. As a matter of fact, I'll go ahead and roll what he has to say.
If someone calls the cops on you and says that you were a little bit angry yesterday, well, we could come and just take all your shit. No, we are complicating things way too much in this country. Simplicity is happiness and simplicity is peace. So the Tennessee governor, who is a Republican, who has backed guns for a long time, is now talking about introducing red flag laws.
It is possible and it is important that we find a way to remove individuals who are a threat to themselves or to our society, to remove them from access to weapons. I'm asking the legislature to bring forth thoughtful, practical measures to do that, to strengthen our laws, to separate those dangerous people from firearms, while at the same time preserving the constitutional rights of the people of this state.
What happened, dude? Your balls drop off? You doing a sex change as well? Is that what you're doing? I didn't see any news articles about you getting injected with estrogen. I mean, they should probably put one out so everybody's aware to not vote you in next time. Now look, I get it. This is after a trans person went into a school and shot up a whole bunch of kids. You know what our response is to people who think it's okay to go into schools and shoot up kids? It should be, you know what, we're gonna arm the hell out of every school. Every mom and dad who drops their kid off, they will be armed. Every teacher, they will be armed. You're not getting into our school. You're not getting a chance to shoot kids. But no, instead they go straight to, well, we got to do some red flag laws. Here's the problem. Red flag laws are essentially gun confiscation. Even the ATF puts crap out on Valentine's Day about them. Report your ex-lover to get back at them. That's all it takes for them to exercise this red flag law. Oh, well, we got a call that an ex-boyfriend got angry one night because his ex-girlfriend cheated on him, so we've got to go take his guns. That's the problem with this. We can't play favorites. We can't be like, oh, well, this person seems unstable, but this person seems okay, and then flop it the next day when you get a few phone calls about a person. No, this is way too complicated. Everyone has the right to self-defense, period. And no one, I don't care who you are. I don't care what you believe in. I don't care who your God is. I don't care if you're the president of the United States or China or Russia or whoever. No one has the right to tell you how you can defend yourself. If your life is truly in danger.
HTC is definitely a funnier guy than me. I'm going to go ahead and give him that there. But he's also 100% correct. Self-defense is self-defense. You have a right to self-defense, okay? It's just the way that it is. Now, while I do agree that there are some people that you might not want armed, at the same exact time, you're creating a bit of a morass, as I'll be explaining here very shortly. But the thing you have to understand is this here. I have a right to own a firearm. You have a right to own a firearm. We all have a right to self-defense, okay? So what happens when you start red flag lawing people? I mean, how far does the rabbit hole go? How deep does it really and truly go? I mean, ask yourself a question. What's the point of a red flag law? I mean, it's kind of like what he said earlier about the ATF putting out flyers about reporting your ex-lover. And it's not just the ex-boyfriend, ex-girlfriend thing, as you'll hear me say again here in the very next segment. Fact of the matter is that this entire thing, this entire law, could be wielded against political opponents. So think about this really quick. What if Democrats take charge of that state? They're going to use it against their political opponents. Not to mention the fact that that video, that little segment, actually started on what was going on in Michigan. You don't think that the Democrats in the state of Michigan are not going to use this against their political opponents? Do you really and truly want to create that CW phrase that Tim Pool constantly screams about? This right here is a way to do it. It's not just the family member or ex-girlfriend thing that you have to worry about, or ex-boyfriend thing. Let's kind of bring this closer to home. Let's just say that you are just a regular guy on the street, and let's just say you have a conversation with somebody about anything, and somebody thinks you're crazy, even though the person that they think may be crazy may have said something in a way that might have just came off a little bit awkward, maybe not great social skills. Oh my God, that guy over there, I think he's crazy. He's a threat. You see what you're kind of leading this to? This is kind of a rabbit hole that honestly should not be, it should be explored, but in the way of saying, look, no red flag laws, you're actually eliminating somebody's due process. Let me give you another example. You're outside your home, you get into it with your next door neighbor, you just have a simple disagreement, and let's just say that they decide to get a little bit more pissed than normal, and let's say they call the cops, and they have the cops come over to your house and say, well, sir, you're a threat. Next thing you know, that individual is going to court, and their guns have been taken away from them, and next thing you know, they're spending a lot of money on a lawyer to get those firearms back when they were unjustly targeted to begin with. Other examples of this would be, but what if you're a veteran with post-traumatic stress disorder? You've not caused any problems. You go to your therapy sessions like normal. Maybe you're on medications. You take that. You've not caused any problems. You've actually gotten over whatever the hell was irking you before. Are you going to red flag law that person there? If anything, I would want all of our veterans to be armed, especially in this time frame. Doesn't matter. I want them armed. I myself am a veteran. I'm not going to tell you what I have in my house or anything, but the fact of the matter is now you're possibly putting a label on them. Do you guys see what I'm saying? This right leads to a rabbit hole that after a while, everybody's going to be getting red flagged. This is an extremely dangerous law. And we haven't even gotten to the part to where what if the cops show up to an individual's home and say an individual does not know that the cops are coming? Obviously, they're not going to. And let's just say a gunfight occurs. Next thing you know, you have a police officer who may have gotten killed, or you have a homeowner that may have gotten killed that, quite frankly, should not have been bothered or touched. You're also intervening in these people's lives in a way that should not be intervened. It's almost like you're allowing the cops, because somebody had an issue, to go in there and invade your property when, quite frankly, they shouldn't be. Red flag laws are completely unconstitutional. It's not just a violation of your Second Amendment, it's a violation of your Fourth Amendment right, and it's also a violation of your Fifth Amendment right. This right here was completely unbased at all. I understand that an individual that identified, a girl that identified as a guy who had gender dysphoria, who was on hormone medications or whatnot, I understand that that individual probably should have been, based upon the patterns that they were showing, probably should have had an intervention before. However, the thing is this right here. Once you start labeling people, once you start going on this red flag law trip, guess what the hell happens? It only gets a lot worse. I think it was Ben Shapiro who even put up a tweet saying that he thought that red flag laws were good in theory. One of the main gripes I have with him, when in fact it obviously can be used to target political dissidents instead. What if Democrats get control of this? What if they use the red flag law on their Republican constituents? I don't think that Democrats will ever be in charge in that state, but still at the same exact time, you're obviously going to be using this to target political opponents, and that is something that, quite frankly, we should not have. Like I've said before, the best thing you can do is simply harden the schools, get rid of gun-free zones, just harden the targets, and allow everybody to carry. Constitutional carry is what the hell I'm in favor of. chances are a bad guy with a gun, they always get stopped by a good guy with a gun, whether they are a cop or they are not a cop. Do I need to bring up the incident in Indiana at that mall? Fact of the matter is that red flag laws are extremely dangerous, and in a lot of ways they are more dangerous than an AR-15 ban. It is the most dangerous law on the books because of how it can be used. Which brings me to the topic of hardening the schools. Now, guys, I've basically said that the schools need to be hardened, but I've kind of waned a little bit on how to properly do this. Then, out of the middle of nowhere, Count Dankula had a take on this. Now, I'm going to play a portion of this. We're going to come back on the other side, and I'm going to see if he's actually right or if he's wrong on this one.
Actually had a couple of leftists and trans mass shooters recently as well. Now, the first thing that I'll go into is the private security at schools. People have said, should the police be at schools? And I say no. And a reason for that was something I actually didn't consider until a few days ago. If police are present at schools and they're dealing with stuff that's in the schools, like fights and violence and blah, 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 then what that can result in is something that should have just been a detention is now a criminal record. So basically, they're going to come out of school with a criminal record, and that's going to absolutely annihilate their chances. Now, I'm not saying don't charge students with something. If it's something that's serious enough, you know, like someone came into school with a gun or someone stabbed another student, then obviously, like, you know, catch some charges, definitely for that. But see if it's something like two guys got each other in headlocks and had a little bit of a punch up in the locker room or something like that, like, break it up and give them detention. You know, right, that's boys being boys or something like that. However, if the police are present, the police will then have the police head on and go, that's assault, here's some charges, here's your court date, blah, 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 here's a big criminal record. And you'll see a massive spike in kids having criminal records, and then when they get out of school, because they've got a criminal record, they can't get jobs anywhere. It can actually stop them getting into colleges and universities and stuff like that, and it's absolutely wrecked their chances over something that should have amounted to no more than a bit of detention. Right, so that's why I say no police in the schools. However, private armed security is absolutely fine because they don't have the power to charge. It'll be at their discretion. It'll be at their discretion whether or not they contact the police. Whereas they'll think, obviously, if it's something that's serious enough, then they will contact the police, like a stabbing, like, or a very, very serious assault, blah, blah, blah. But their kids aren't going to catch charges. They'll just get taken to detention. But also because there is armed security stationed at the school, if anybody comes up and tries to, you know, do the old rooty-tooty point and shooty, they will get dropped before they even get in the building. And also, it'll create lots and lots of jobs. It'll create lots and lots of jobs as well. So that, I believe that is the sensible solution. But everyone's like, it's a gun-free zone. Regulations say you're not allowed armed people on the school. Well, maybe if there was things like this.
I agree with both HDC and Count Dankula. I agree with both of them. And I do think there are multiple ways of going about this. I've always suggested that cops, retired LEOs, as long as they know that this is their actual job title. I've also suggested, I haven't really suggested private security, so I haven't gone down that one just yet. I've also suggested veterans, and I've also suggested parents. But the fact of the matter is this right here. They're both right. They're both telling the truth. It kind of took me a second to get that. I apologize. But let me also say one more thing to Dankula. Dankula is actually quite based. He's not just some regular comedian. He's actually pretty well based, and I'd suggest you guys listen to him a little bit more often. I have been recently, and I got to say, guy's pretty smart on the issues is what I mean. Not to mention, I think Dankula actually has a bit of a political background anyways. I think I'll do some more digging on that a little bit later on, but still, though, I've been finding myself listening to him a lot more often. Pretty reasonable, pretty rational dude, and also kind of funny too. Couple of things. Number one, I do, let's just put it this way here. I'm very interested in the whole idea of private security firms, private armed security. However, in the case of armed security, you're going to have to give them a little bit more levity than normal. Now, as far as what Dankula was saying about breaking up fights and giving kids criminal records, I'm not so sure that's going to be the case with cops. It's one of the reasons why I think it's probably best that you go with ex-law enforcement, veterans, and possibly parents. I think Heavy Duty Country mentioned that as well. The thing about parents is this right here. If a situation is to occur, a parent is more than likely going to attack that individual head on, meaning they're going to actually go after the shooter head on. Cops, we kind of saw this with Parkland, that in some cases they may not actually go for the shooter right off the bat. So I may have to kind of recheck that take. or reevaluate that. If you think that I'm kind of backtracking on that, that's not what the point is. It's just to say I'm looking at it from a different angle, but still at the same exact time. I think what Dankula says is very interesting about private security firms. But like I said, if you're going to use private security firms or private armed security, you better give them a good amount of levity to do what it is that they need to be done, or what needs to actually be done in these situations. Veterans, on the other hand, I'm still very, very much in favor of that. Arm these guys, pay them, work them in a good 8-hour shift. If you want to do rotational shifts overnight to keep people from planting bombs and crap in the school. By the way, YouTube, I'm not advocating or anything. I'm just simply saying that obviously incidents do occur. You see, me personally, I believe in getting rid of gun-free zones, and I believe in actually hardening the schools. It's really the only way you can do this without violating someone's constitutional rights. Now, even though that individual may be my political opposite, I still believe in their right to free speech. I still believe in their right to, live life itself. I am in favor of their right to pursue happiness, and I'm also in favor of their right to, let's just say, defend themselves, because self-defense is, in fact, a human right. By the way, I also say this to the anti-gun crowd. If somebody has hate in their heart and they're going to do something, guess what? They're going to find a way to freaking do it. I did want to bring up one more thing, and this is obviously going to be a project here in the near future. I even did a project on my second channel, Short Timer Prepping. I'll try to link the video in the description box, asking the questions if they could even take our guns. And what I did was I brought up the notion of logistically it was absolutely impossible, that red flag laws and little minor things would just mostly be minor inconveniences. We're probably going to reassess that project here in the near future. However, it probably won't be titled anything like "Can they take our guns?" I have to kind of work that out. But the fact of the matter is that a red flag law is one of the ways that they intend on doing it. And as I kind of explained in that video there, red flag laws would just be another nuisance. It would be an extremely dangerous nuisance. But then again, though, at the same exact time, I don't see them being able to collect everyone's guns based on that alone. If anything, I think that red flag laws would lead to a much, much larger morass later on down the road. So the mere fact that the Tennessee GOP is even considering this, to me, tells you that you might want to use the primary system here in 2024 and get these idiots out, because obviously they're not representing their voters. Guys, with that right there being said, I'm going to go ahead and halt this video now. I do plan on releasing the 2 videos for tomorrow a little bit later on in the day. If something is breaking or something very, very big comes up, I'll be releasing a 3rd video. For right now, we're going to try to chalk it back down to 2 for the time being. The TYT overview, what's going on there with another little debate thing that we need to go over. Don't worry, you guys will see it when I post it. I don't really know how to actually explain. I haven't even titled the video yet. Those videos will be coming out on Tuesday. The goal is to still try to put the long form videos out at least once or twice a week, especially on weekends. But I'm going to go ahead and try to put a couple of them out on Tuesday. With that right there being said, guys, I'm going to go ahead and halt this video now. So make sure you guys hit that like button, subscribe, share the video. If you recently subscribed to this channel, please, I want to go ahead and say thank you very, very much for doing so. Your subscription means everything to me. Please leave a comment in the comment section. And thank you guys for watching. Also, one more thing too, SJWs, piss off.